There's only three of us, I
I
think,
know.
but at least Leslie should be able to vote.
If she can. No.
She's there.
Oh, she's here.
Yes.
Some question whether she could. Well, the internet going in and out when I got here.
What?
I did this 3 times. Is it in and off? So off, but it seems to be sticking.
Yep. Oh, good. Why don't you sit here and then she'll be between us.
Have a seat. This may be us.
Yeah.
It's maybe us. It may be us.
I think it is us. Yeah, this is. He said he's not.
Tyler had a flat tire, he didn't know it was a bit.
He said more than that. He
Yeah,
said
I
he's
mean,
sick.
probably got sick trying to change the flat tire.
He said he has to sit it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words,
Yeah, she knows out to us.
Oh, good.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
he's ready. I don't think this is a public hearing, but
Yeah.
Every time such a great time.
Oh,
yeah,
Are you?
I might have, we'll have to get. I'm gonna put these stupid hearing aids on, for instance, sake. I can't hear you across the table.
look at that.
Yes. All right.
Vouchers. Oh, why? Okay.
All the stuff you had the other way.
Hmm?
All the same stuff that's in, you had electronically.
Apparently.
Right, that way, that I printed too. I didn't print each bill. Definitely didn't print each bill. Holy cow, we don't.
I wasn't expecting that. No harm.
Half of the papers in here.
Released a paper.
Okay, well, let us begin.
Well,
I'd like to call the meeting to order at a little bit late. We go 6:03, that clock's a little fast. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to have other people in attendance. We're going to start with the public hearing on the CDBG grant. And is everybody signed in? This is the first of 2 public hearings that are required under the Community Development Block Grant Program, the 24 Code of Federal Regulations 570.486, to be held prior to the submission of any Community Development Block Grant applications for the fiscal year 2025. For this first hearing, we're soliciting public comment on the town's past performance under the CDBG program. We're soliciting public proposals or ideas with respect to needs of the community. And we're providing information to the public on eligibility activities under the New York State CDBG program. And we're here to answer questions. So let's see, there's a handout available by contacting Toma, who administers the program on our behalf. And there's a telephone number, if anybody wants to write it down. It's 607-753-1433. So comments can be submitted in writing if somebody wants to, or oral comments are solicited right now. Is anyone who'd like to address the board about the CDBG proposal? Don't all jump at once.
doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't. It's pretty easy. Not even in our Zoom audience. Okay, well then let's close the public hearing. And move on to the agenda. Are there additions or deletions? I've got at least one, which was an additional proposal for a housing rehabilitation that went on rather late in the afternoon. 224 Jersey Hill. We might also consider entertaining there's a late message from Zach about potentially hiring someone to help with assessing for designing the stabilization for the shed over on the highway property for the
Oh,
skate
from
park.
Jack, I thought you said Jack.
No,
Jack,
Zach, yeah.
yes, yes.
So if you don't mind, we can add those and put them down. Well, the first one ought to go with the other ones. What?
Yeah, right.
Joel, you said design the skate park. Is that what you said?
Well, Zach sent an email with the information about who might be hired and what it would cost to hire them to design a fix for the shed that's there, so that it would serve for the skate park. That can go at the end, I guess.
Very good, thank you.
And the other one is right after 10.5 or as 10.5. Anything else?
Pretty full meeting.
Right, there's lots of,
We won't add
lots of
anything.
small items, right?
Let's not add anymore.
Privilege of the floor. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on a subject that's not already on the agenda? Or comment on the items that are on the agenda? At this time, Mark,
I just had a couple sort of comments and questions about things that are on the agenda for later, so I'll just say them now if that's okay.
Sure.
For the TG Miller accessibility improvements, I saw an estimate of hourly rates, but I didn't really see an estimate of hours, either in minimum or a range. So I was curious if that is typical not to have sort of that information on there, or if it's possible to get that, just because it seems like it's hard to assess how much work it'll be or how much it'll cost if we only know the hourly rates, but not total hours.
right,
And then another thought on that was that they're proposing a lot of different projects, and I think a lot of the little pieces look really good. But just to say that we could decide to do some, but not all of them, depending on how much money there is. So I feel like we've talked about some of those pieces separately, the ramp versus the crosswalk. So I just wanted to sort of
yeah,
throw that out there, that we could decide not to do all of it at once, depending on the cost and what's in the budget for it.
but those are the only two items, though.
What?
Those are the two items, though, you know, that the entry.
But it also seemed like there was something about moving the electric chargers from where they were to across the way. And I think that was in the layout, and I assumed that would probably cost a lot. I think that's what I was thinking when I said that initially. That we could do I mean, I guess we can go see what the whole discussion is, but
Yeah, I mean,
it seemed like there was more being proposed than we had discussed in the past few meetings, specifically with moving the chargers.
yeah, right. That part was only to be, that's not included. The proposal was focused on accessibility.
Oh, okay, so
So
maybe,
crosswalks and entry.
We have this discussion later when, in the
Yeah.
discussion.
yeah.
He just asked to bring it up.
Yeah.
And a question related to the board action for 1840 Danby Road.
Mhm.
I was just curious, what is the estimated cost to the town when that happens? And typically, does the town cover it? Or is the homeowner asked to cover that cost? Property owner?
Well, we can
Yeah, again.
address that question when it comes up.
Thanks. That's it.
Anyone else like to comment? Rhonda?
Yes, thank you. Getting back to Steve, I read both his report and the letter that he composed, and I thought he did. I didn't know what I was going to expect, but I thought he did a very thorough job. And in fact, I was kind of shocked at all of the things that he found that were wrong in the water in the basement and all of this sort of thing. And I decided I really liked this system because it made it very clear what kind of issues there were with the house and what he was proposing to do with it. And I think we're onto something good. And so I'm really happy that this has taken place, and I hope that there will be many more of these. And if he wants help with things on South Danby Road, I'll be happy to help him. Anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. Ted?
Hi there. I didn't think I had anything to contribute here, but actually the last few speakers really gelled something in my mind. Steve's report on 1840 was quite eye-opening. And I also heard what amounts to a pre-request for some money to help find out what's wrong with the old highway barn, which might be converted into a skate park. So the question I have that I'd love to hear about, has Steve done a code official's report on that building? Why are we paying someone to do something that Steve is perfectly capable of doing? Was that considered before you started committing funds to it? Thank you.
Anyone else want to comment?
There are people out in the audience that are timidly.
Oh,
putting their
no,
arms up.
it's, sure. Could you come closer to, so you can be heard by the Zoom audience?
Oh, I go here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
because the microphone's right here.
Okay, very good.
Great. I have a written statement voicing,
Can you tell us who?
oh yes, I'm Nadia Gregg.
That's-
Nice to meet you. Okay, should I just read my statement?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Nadia Gregg and I live at 552 West King Road with my husband Hunter, who's here with me tonight. Our property directly borders South Hill Cider on two sides, with Hunter living here since 2015 and I joined him in 2021. I'm here today to express deep concern about the ongoing noise pollution from South Hill Cider and their outdoor amplified music events. What was initially proposed and approved to be a small agricultural tasting room has now evolved into a full-scale music venue with weekly outdoor amplified concerts during the warm months. Multiple times per week, these events blast sound across our rural neighborhood, and it's affecting our ability to enjoy our home and land. Friday night's concert with Fall Creek Brass Band is just one recent example. We had family visiting for the holiday weekend, and we couldn't sit outside on our back deck without being drowned out by sound reverberating across the open field from the cidery stage. Even upon going inside, the music was still clearly audible. It's hard to describe how demoralizing it is to feel pushed out of your own space, especially when all you want is to grill dinner and listen to the songbirds. I understand the desire for some ag businesses to showcase live music as a way to help generate revenue, and we're not here to shut down reasonably volumed or unplugged music like jazz nights. But hosting grassroots headliner bands with a multiple speaker setup that is directed at the residential neighborhood is unacceptable. Events of this scale and volume should require a special permit and formal approval from the board and surrounding community members. It's also worth noting that the open field between the cidery and our homes functions like a natural amphitheater, distorting and amplifying sound in ways that make it echo, clap, and carry far beyond what's reasonable in a rural area. Hunter has tried to address this directly with the owner, Steve Seelan, who encouraged him to email him. Hunter did email him promptly, but never received a response. Instead, we were casually told that there is nothing more that can be done to mitigate sound while the events continue on without restriction, which is why we are here tonight seeking intervention from the town board. We love living in Danby and we're expecting our first child soon. We want to raise our family here, but we're increasingly questioning whether this is a place where residential life is respected, where families have the right to peace and quiet in their own backyards. This situation isn't just frustrating, it's unfair. South Hill Cider is operating well beyond the scope of a farm cidery, and residents like us are paying the price. I urge the board to step in and take real and forcible action to restore balance in our rural neighborhood without compromising the cidery's business nor neighbors' peace and sanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment?
So have a statement prepared.
You are.
Good evening, my name is Susan Perry. I own the properties at 520 and 522 West King Road. My house is now unlivable more than half the nights in a given week, April through October, because South Hill Cider operates as a live music venue, exceeding by far the permissible scope of the New York Ag and Markets Law. I have a few facts I would like to read for the record. One, although its original plan was for a small tasting room, South Hill Cider now has live music at least 5 nights per week. This week alone, there are 5 concerts scheduled. 2, despite multiple requests from neighbors, the town has not acted and the owners have refused any sound or visual mitigation. After being asked again just last month to adjust the stage position or provide any form of sound buffering, the owners booked a brass band for the 4th of July. This is the audio of that event from my back deck. That's what I'm hearing from across 2 fields. 3, disruptions like July 4th are far too common and restrict residents' ability to celebrate special days at home with family and friends. My son's Cornell graduation party was ruined by live music from the cidery. Next year, I cannot plan to have my youngest's high school graduation party at home because of the cidery. 4, Jeff Kehoe at Ag and Markets confirmed there are no other entities in the state using this law to operate as a live music venue, and that municipalities can exercise home rule authority to enact common sense regulation of these businesses. And 5, and finally, other towns have successfully challenged misalignment with Ag and Markets via home rule, including Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard in Riverhead in 2010, Twisted Rail Brewing in Canandaigua and Aware Vineyards in Cazenovia in 2023, and Bedvine Brewery in Brooklyn this year. If the town can expend significant effort contemplating regulations after one private party in West Danby, it must act on this issue. The right to farm should not come at the expense of non-farming residents' right to enjoy their properties and equal protection under the law. It is the town's responsibility and right to act now to identify, implement, and enforce all available lawful remedies. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board?
I'll just say one thing. I have a recording from that night also.
What?
I also have a recording from the 4th.
Mm-hmm. Sounds similar, right?
And my house is considerably farther away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's on there.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Moving on. There's no correspondence to my knowledge. Is that correct, Mariah?
No, whoops, no.
Okay. Any announcements?
I have none.
You do?
No, I do not have an announcement.
No. Neither do I. And we have the supervisor's report, the company analyses, town clerk's report, the code officer's report, which was interesting. We had a sudden surge in building permits. Single family houses, 3 of them in the last month. Which brings us to the T.G. Miller proposal for the use of their professional services to develop plans and specifications for the town hall accessibility improvements. You done? Yeah. Have a chair.
Yeah, it's Danby Harner with TG Miller. We worked with the town for quite a few years now on different planning exercises, from dealing solar farms to helping out the highway department. And Greg was talking with Dave Herrick in our office too about the crosswalk, the state highway crossing. And then it kind of morphed into potentially looking at an entrance, improvements to the town hall. So
If you could speak up so
I
they
was
can
gonna
hear you.
say, I
too.
think you need to speak up. We can move this a little bit more toward the middle, but not
Yeah,
toward
so
you.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, as long as you speak up.
Yeah, that's right.
Same for you, Joel.
yeah, so the initial outline there was just kind of putting together a scope that we see to help initiate the process. There's unknowns of how far you want to take it, but that's to be determined with conversations with the boards and understanding where you want to go with it.
That's why there's no price range for what you're.
As of now, right,
Yeah.
yeah, still trying to understand the scope. of the proposal, and then we can try to refine an hourly estimate for sure on that piece. You know, we've worked with state highway crossings before, and there's debates there too, you know, is a flashing beacon something that you want to entertain versus just, you know, signage. So we'll kind of walk through different scenarios there. Seems like the town's put some effort towards the front entrance and how they'd like to see that come together. Material selections, handrails, and those gutters today were, you know, overflowing, and it looks like there's no gutters on the main house,
Well, no,
hall here.
you know, there's a reason for that. I mean, there never has been, and we have some, it's French drain at the bottom.
Yep. So
But the gutter is supposed to work on the building though. It doesn't work if you don't clean it out.
yeah, so taking some of those things into account when you're designing walkways, that they don't get iced up and things. like
Yes.
that, But
I'm sorry, but I'm really gonna ask you to speak up.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to hear. I don't know whether Mariah can hear. It's just speak up a little.
Sure, yeah,
Please,
yeah.
thank you, thank you.
yeah, so we're really here just to help facilitate the process. If there's questions, you know, we can get into it. We put some sketches together, and we can go through some of the thoughts that people had. You know, desire to kind of go through step by step, but it's really, we're here to assist where we can.
I had similar questions to Mark's because when I looked through, that was just a price list, and I know that you're not coming up with this is not about an estimate for the work. Which is the other thing that's important for all of us. This is your introduction to what T.G. Miller can offer us. And then the scope of the work is what?
Design services,
What?
design services essentially,
Yeah, professional design
Design
services.
services. Yeah,
right? Design it so that we can then bid it,
right,
get it built.
right. Yeah.
So we envisioned where we could put together a short contract to get bids, and you could look at it multiple stages too, where you could say the crosswalk could be an alternate, or moving electric stations if that's desired. That can be an alternate. So you can look at putting the whole scope together,
Right,
bidding it out, and looking at getting prices
Right.
for each of that. You know, you can pull together initial cost estimates if it's helpful to.
right.
to
I'm gonna remind you, you might not know this, but the main reason you got here in the first place is that we got permission to have the crosswalk. So that's not an alternate. It
Okay,
might be a
yeah.
separate job, but it's not an alternate.
Sure, yeah. Or
But
how you break them up.
there are options within that scope,
Right, right. But
which you can help us cost out.
Exactly, yep. No, we can, once you have an understanding of the scope, we can put some initial cost figures to that. And that can then be, you know, presented and.
And contractors, too. You don't do the actual work, do you?
Correct, no.
Right, right. So, yeah. Anyway, on the price list, which I did print out, but I don't know where it is in my stuff. Got it? I found that a little, I'm sure this is your general billing rates.
Yeah.
So we already did have, topographical photos and some, you know, when, who was that came? When we were first talking about the crosswalk.
That was Dave Herrick.
Yeah.
He didn't do any surveying up there.
No, not surveying, but he came and that's where I think maybe those pictures, because of that, though, how did it happen that you did the photographs of the area and brought those to us tonight?
I was here on other business with the town, and I, you know, just being understanding that there's a project potentially here, I put some effort into, all right, this is what we see to take on.
So then, because that evening, we were began with just talking about the crosswalk, and then the thought that Dave suggested and asked, would we, if we wanted to do more, if we did a general, and this is part answer to you, Mark, if we did a general idea of other things we might want to do, could we roll some of this into an estimate that would include various projects? So I think that's why this looks so off and encompassing.
Yeah, right, you can look
Right.
at it just a crosswalk, but then where does that lead people to, right?
Well, we were
Like,
interested in whether or not we had to have a pathway that meets up directly with the entrance to the town hall. That was one of the things we weren't even sure whether we had to do that. We don't have to do that according to the state, but that was something we were thinking about and some of the other parking lot issues. I mean, I don't know whether, I'm pretty sure you parked where you could, if you go back too far, you go down and. Anyway,
Yeah, and we worked with a few other municipalities, and this is actually a last year's discounted rates that we do for municipalities. So it's a slight discount, just understanding where people are at.
great.
No. Yeah, you know, safety, that's always a number one thing when we're looking at state crossings. I don't know if there's been any entertainment of flashing beacons, which are push button operated, but
That's a separate, I did talk to Valerie Kaiser today, and that would be that's a separate, she told me that that's a separate.
Authorization?
What?
Authorization?
No, it's first of all, there's no permit needed from the state for the actual crosswalk. But we have to have the landing pads in place. And she also said that they have to be high contrast. They can't be made to be pretty like one color. She said sometimes some contractors try to design them so that they look real nice and but that can't be.
right, the truncated domes need to
Yeah,
have a
truncated thing.
visual and,
Yeah.
and,
Yep. Anyway. I didn't have any real questions. I'm just trying to open this up so that people here can understand that we're in this situation of trying to figure it out too. So if you have other things to suggest, I'm interested in hearing what you have in mind. If that's a reasonable thing to ask.
yeah, no, there's, you know, just having that connectivity, you know, from one side to the other where you can have somebody, you know, if it's a bus drop off, safely cross and then get a safe route to the town hall.
Right, yeah, I'm talking about more of what you're talking about with the town hall part of this and the entranceway.
Yeah, and you know, some utilities out there will have to pick up with a survey, so you understand, all right, we've got clean outs, downspouts. I think there's a septic tank out there, so you kind of understand the existing condition piece. And then you can start to formulate concepts, you know, ramps set for your landings, your correct slopes coming out of your doorways, and getting up to ADA compliance, which is probably pushing it right now.
Well, yeah, not just pushing it, we're out of compliance,
Yes, yeah. No,
which is the main driver for doing something.
yeah. And then your ADA stalls, you know, having those close to the building and having your proper signage and then connectivity there too, where you need a little offset. And then the electric charging stations are, you know, where potentially you would put an ADA stall, so then that starts to play into the scenario.
Right, we have a plan for moving them across the parking lot
Right, yeah,
and maybe keeping one there that would serve the.
serve one for the, sure, yeah.
So I think it makes the most sense to have the committee interact with him in coming up with a proposals.
So does
Rather
that,
than doing it as a board.
right, I agree. Does that come under, that's, I guess, probably what part of this is, what are we talking about? Like, we make a contract with you to come up with a plan and then, or what, I mean, I don't know where we are.
I'll just say, just as sort of just general background, just to kind of get where we're at today, just so that is that we got the approval for the crosswalk
Right.
last fall. And then when Dave was out here, we started talking about that there was town hall accessibility issues, and
Right.
Dave said, well, maybe we should shoot some topo if and when you guys want to do that in the
Right.
future. In the last couple of months, we were debating applying for another grant, a CDBG grant, to look at town hall accessibility improvements, but we realized that timeline would have been probably 4 to 5 years in terms of doing a needs assessment next year, getting grant money to do it next year, and construction the following year. We don't know, right now it's, I actually don't know if that got chopped from the administration's budget or not, if CDBG was part of that or not, but there was concern that that program might not be there. So the board voted to say, we're not going to go with grant money. We want to just make the town hall entry accessible.
Right,
You directed me to issue an RFP and just sort of put that out there to the wider engineering community. At that time though, Danby had reached back out with the crosswalk and almost like his ears were burning and said, hey, and has the town considered tying both projects into one another because they kind of work, you know, you're talking about accessibility from the crosswalk to accessibility to the town hall, they kind of merge together. And so this is where we are today. I think what maybe, and Danby kind of helped us out here, is that clearly cost is an issue here. I mean, the board has said we want to make this accessible. Perhaps, you know, we don't know how many hours this project might take. And maybe understanding that could be helpful. And then also for the board, if there's a not to exceed amount, I mean, are you willing to put it, you know, what is it whatever it costs, is there a, you know, last time, I think when you had sort of offered us to go forward, it really was, we'll do it at whatever cost, but it might be worthwhile to just understand from Danny, but maybe how generally, how long could this take? How long does it take to get to construction ready, called, you know, shovel ready projects, where then it goes out to bid construction? That could help sort of focus the conversation a little too.
Yeah, and I think a little bit more discussion on where that scope lands, and we can put together an option that says, all right, if we go the full Monty, here's the proposal. If it's, you know, construction services too, trying to help bid and oversee construction contractors, then we can show that as an estimate there as well. But you know, yeah, it's trying to be realistic and, you know, conservative of time, you know, where we can keep things simple enough, small contracts, not elaborate, large contracts, but enough to keep the town protected, you know, the contractor.
Well, with adequate specifications that we can actually bid it.
Yes, yeah.
So it sounds like a preliminary meeting with the committee might be a good starting place.
Yeah, it would be helpful to kind of scope out where people are thinking.
Mhm. So this is on the agenda is 10.2.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking Leslie might want to have something to say. Yeah.
This is just in the reports.
I mean, when I saw it on the agenda, my first thought was, what's it gonna cost? You know, how much is that the contract gonna be for? So I mean, I'd like to have, you know, a general idea before we sign anything. How much T.G. Miller's services are gonna cost? I mean, you know, it maybe can't be concrete, but we need to have some kind of an idea, so.
Yeah, no, that's realistic for sure. Well, if you like, we can try to get a meeting scheduled and sit down and kind of go through some options.
Yeah, and, you know, with that information, you could give us how much it would cost the code to do what we propose to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll talk.
Who's on the committee? Who's on the committee?
Well, we got rid of somebody new because
Paul was on it.
Paul was on the committee. It
Oh.
was Paul and Mariah and me.
And Zach.
Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Zach. Yes.
Zach.
Is Steve there too?
No.
Steve wasn't just you. Okay.
Right. During the room, we could expand the committee.
Don't look at me. I'm the one that's asking the question. I don't have any of the answers.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll take it up again when it comes up under the agenda. This was opportunity for you to hawk your services, as it were.
Sure.
And thank you.
Great. Yeah.
So are we asking him to stay till the 10.2 or not?
He need not, but if you wanted to.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I have a sense for where we're going with
Yeah.
it, but we won't actually do it until we get there, but.
Yeah, no, I can stay around.
Hang around a little while, if you get bored.
Yeah.
Then.
The CAC has transmitted its report to the board for last year. The CAC.
Oh, CAC, yeah.
And we have later on in the agenda, I guess I forgot to put it on. Approving it,
You added it,
accepting it, and then,
it was added as 10.7 with CAC.
okay, there's there. Minutes. I confess that I did not have time to read these minutes. Did you?
I have. Have you? Have you, Leslie? Yes, there's three of us who've read it.
Yeah. Both of them?
Yeah. So I think we should go ahead because we keep waiting and you like to do grammatical things that,
Yeah, but I have to say, I didn't have a chance to read them at all, but.
I move we approve the minutes of the June 16th meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, was it the, Mariah, was it the June 16th meeting that had the blurb about, the speed limit roads that we were
I-
gonna submit?
Did put them in the June 16th minutes, and they were also added to the June 2nd meeting minutes. So they've been
Okay.
in 2 meeting minutes, and they will be
Okay.
submitted to the.
That was the only question I had about those minutes. Okay, great.
That's as far as I got in the minutes, but the last item on that list was confusing to me. Because it talked about two roads.
Oh, this is with Curtis and
Hmm?
the roads. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it talked about two roads in that last item, and I don't know about them both being mentioned, but I could be, I tried to communicate with
You mean-
Leslie
you
about
mean-
this earlier today about whether the list was accurate as
Oh.
as it occurs in the minutes. And I'm just raising the question now, is it?
I think they were mentioned, but I can,
What do you got in front of it?
I'm having so much trouble hearing you, even with these in, I'm sorry, but, sorry. Plus,
Did
Would
you
you
look
like
at
me
it?
to read what I
Huh?
have?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3496 through the Hamlet from Slater Lane to Walding Lane. Gunderman Road from Comfort to 96B. South Danby Road from Peters to 96B. And the residential sections starting at 96B of Michigan Hollow to Hornbrook.
And Hornbrook.
And Hornbrook, correct.
So what about? Michigan Hollow, what?
he's,
What, Joel?
Leslie's trying to hear
What
you.
was that last one?
Michigan Hollow to. Go ahead,
The
Mariah.
the residential sections of Michigan Hollow and Hornbrook Road, you know,
Hornbrook
from
Road is separate.
96B.
Hornbrook Road, another one. From, the residential section of both of those roads, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. That was, okay. I think Peter Road is without an S. Peter Road.
Yep.
Peter Road?
No, well, the South Danby Road from Peter Road to 96B.
Yes,
From Peter, yeah.
but Peter's spelled without an S. Not
Yes.
Peter's Road, but Peter Road.
It is, it does have an S.
Does it?
Yes, I'm pretty positive. I can look it back up again, but
No, it doesn't.
no, okay,
No.
we've been through that before then.
If I can
And it's
review it.
already
Then
been
it would
done.
need, it would
would
need
have
an
been done.
apostrophe.
Then we can, exactly, well,
Yes, but it's
not
not.
unless it's somebody's last name is just plain Peters,
Yeah,
but
It's-
anyway,
There's no S. I took the S. I removed the S. It's
Okay.
just,
His name was Moses Peter.
Yeah.
so anyway, Mariah has corrected that.
okay.
Does that make it
And then,
okay?
Yeah.
So we can vote on it?
Any other comments? Leslie, we're good.
No, that was it.
Okay. All right, Mariah.
okay. Connors.
Yes.
Hunter.
Yes.
Woodworth.
Yes.
Anion.
Abstain. That for both of them or?
That was for one. Are you gonna move the other one or?
I'll move June 23rd. We approve June 23rd special town board meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Any comment?
Not for me.
Okay. Well, then
Connors?
vote.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon,
Abstain.
thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to the warrants.
Okay.
I'll move the general fund vouchers 257 to 277 for $29,176.30.
Second, comments? Mariah?
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon,
Yes.
thank you.
Welcome.
How about the highway fund, vouchers 121 to 129, $12,108.77.
second,
Discussion,
Fine with me. Eddie?
ready, go.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon,
Yes.
thank you.
What are you doing?
One more?
Yep.
Oh, you wanna do it?
Okay, ask me what you'd like to.
I don't know. I don't like doing that.
I'll move the water fund, voucher 69 to 71 for $497 and even.
second,
Ready?
Connors,
Okay,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon,
yes.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. All right, moving on to business. We have from Steve, the report on 1840 Danby Road, the somewhat run-down house next door. And I've drafted a resolution that moves us to the next step. To address Mark's questions, the way the law is written, it was passed in 2000. Forget. Early on.
We're talking.
doesn't matter.
2000, I think it was, no, long before 2000. Anyway, the property owner is of course responsible for maintaining or demolishing the building as it tames. And the first step in the process is the code officer evaluates the building and determines whether it's can be repaired. And whether it constitutes a hazardous condition, which he has found in his report to be the case, and recommended that it be demolished. The next step in the process is defined in the laws that the board agrees and finds that it's in fact a public hazard and orders it demolished. And that's where we are at this point. The owner of the property is then served an order to demolish. They have an opportunity, they're given 30 days to do it, or to object. And there needs to be a hearing so that they can do that, make that objection. They obviously have the option of demolishing the building and then we're good. In the event that they don't demolish the building and don't follow through, the town has the option of ordering it taken down. And then the cost of doing it is tallied and it becomes a charge against the property and is added to their property tax bill. And remains essentially a lien of the property, which is repaid if the taxes are paid. If the taxes are not, then it ends up being one of the things that's discharged upon foreclosure, which can take a long time, but that's how it plays out. So the next step in the process is for us to find and order the demolition. And I drafted a resolution to that effect. Josh, you made a copy of it. What did I do with it?
Do I have a copy of that resolution?
It's in the folder. So you should. It reads, whereas the Danby Town Code Enforcement Officer has presented to the town board a report and associated recommendation on a derelict building located at 1840 Danby Road, tax map number 10.-1-25, and whereas said report finds that the building unsafe and beyond repair, and recommends that it be ordered demolished. Now therefore be it resolved that the Danby Town Board concurs and finds that the building is unsafe and beyond repair, and hereby orders its demolition and removal, and directs that an order be served upon the owner of the property in the manner prescribed in local law number 4 of 2000.
Okay. I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Not for me. I think it's time.
Ready to vote? Okay, Mariah,
Connors? Connors?
She's getting there.
I hear
Hold
you.
on.
I hear you. Hunter?
Yes.
I got to unmute, that's it.
Woodworth?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Gagnon, if you could forward that to me when you get a chance, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I mean, I thought it was in the meeting folder.
I see the inspection report and the report letter.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't see it either.
Well,
I
if it's
didn't
not
see it.
there, I will certainly send it.
Very good.
Next item is the consideration of T.J. Miller proposal and the structure of our interactions. So in light of what we just heard, I suggest that the most expedient way to proceed would be to have the committee meet with Danby and basically come up with a scope of what we want done.
So the original committee was for the front entrance. Period.
Well, I think it
It wasn't the
broadly
crosswalk.
construed as a building.
Yeah, but the crosswalk wasn't in it.
No, it was not.
So, I mean, I don't mind being on it for that bit, but I think we definitely want Zach and Mariah and stay on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd like to, yeah, too.
well, you already are. I mean, you've
That's
already
what we're
said,
talking about, right?
yeah, well.
But Paul's not, so I mean, we have room for more.
Oh, Catherine could be on it in lieu of Paul.
We could, and we need not limit ourselves to that in case others want to join.
Should we have somebody else from then a town member, or just keep going where we are and see how it goes?
Well, if we have somebody else interested, but like Mark,
Yeah, I was thinking about it. There are regular meetings for it, or it's just as needed?
as needed.
I would join.
That works for me.
Okay.
Are you gonna serve on it?
What?
Are you gonna serve on it?
Yeah.
You want not to? Or?
So we're adding Catherine and Mark?
Yes.
Very good.
So I move that we do that, add Catherine and Mark and let the committee meet with Danby and come up with a fleshed out scope. And price.
Second that.
Further discussion?
Who is going to call this meeting together?
Oh,
We need to see your schedule too, yeah,
well, we'll interact with you and find an agreeable time, but.
yeah.
Somebody needs to be responsible on our side.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll coordinate that.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right, ready? Okay, the vote.
Connors?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yes.
Woodworth?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes,
Thank you.
right. Next item, So our esteemed planner is planning on being away for a bit. And he is such an important part of our operation that we need to have plans for how we cope with his absence. You may recall John Szymanski. Some of you remember John Szymanski. He has helped us out in the past between planners, and has a wealth of experience. And as importantly, he's interested and available to help out. So we're proposing that he be hired for up to 160 hours, which should essentially 4 weeks full-time, but more likely it's more like 8 weeks part-time, so that it can kind of be hired to overlap with Greg to sort of ramp up, as it were, and then he covered while Greg is gone, and then he can help transition back at the end. So it's up kind of between Greg and John how the hours will get allocated, but the proposal is that up to 160 hours be provided for, and that the cost of it be come out of the contractual line for the planner. And it's feasible to do it because the cost is fairly modest. The insurance will cover Greg's what we would have spent on Greg while he's away, and the difference in what we would be paying John as an employee is for that period, it adds up to a little under $2,000. So that seems like a reasonable. In fact, it seems like a really good idea, because not only are we getting more assistance from John, we're getting a different perspective from John that might be very helpful in tackling some of the large numbers of things that are on Greg's plate. So I move that we authorize that 160-hour addition of John's assistance for the period when Greg's on paternity leave.
Family prep, whatever it is, family time,
Family time, whatever it's called.
family leave.
Second,
Ready? Okay, Mariah.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope the scheduling works out.
Yeah, I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah.
He wants to start. So
Yeah.
we can, he'll just be.
So did we skip over 10.2?
No, we just dealt with 10.2.
That was the one with the committee, right? The committee, including you, and you arranging it.
Oh, got you. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
That was, got you.
Right. 10.4, policy update for insurance coverage of employees not covered by town supplied insurance. So there's a resolution for this one too. Back in, I'm not sure, well, 2010, I guess it was. When Rick was supervisor, the board provided for covering his insurance costs under his previous employer, post-retirement, instead of having the town's insurance. And instead of ceiling for how much would be willing to be paid for that, of $600 a month. And over time, the amount actually exceeded the authorization, but nobody realized it because, it was in the resolution once upon a time. So not only did we continue to pay that, but we've also continued and expanded the practice for other employees, including me, where instead of having the town's insurance, the town pays for the alternative, which in my case is the Medicare supplement, because it's way cheaper than the town's insurance. So in order for us to So the controller's audit noticed that we had exceeded the authorization in the original motion of the board in 2000. And this resolution is an attempt to redress that failure and expand the policy so that it covers employees as well. So I move that resolution, which is
We don't have the number for that other.
somewhere.
I have one right here.
Okay, what,
Want it?
you have it, you know.
Yeah.
You want to read it, or
No, I'm trying to keep it sort of.
it's very short? Okay, resolution to amend the 2010 resolution that sets a limit on the supervisor's health insurance reimbursement. And, so this is not the most recent version,
Oh, it isn't.
and expands it to,
That's not.
yeah. And extends that policy to other employees. Whereas in 2010, the board passed a resolution to pay for the health insurance costs of the town supervisor with a cap of $600. And whereas at the time the resolution was passed, the supervisor's insurance costs were well under that amount each month. And whereas at the time of the resolution was approved, it was the intent of the board to cover the cost of the health insurance for the town supervisor. And whereas as the years passed and health insurance premiums increased in the market, the health insurance reimbursement to the town supervisor began to exceed the $600 cap. The resolution was not amended at that time. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board amends the wording of the 2010 resolution to read that, quote, the town of Danby will reimburse the town supervisor for their out-of-pocket expenses for health insurance premiums for an amount that does not exceed the town's portion of the premium paid for other employees of the town in any given year. And be it further resolved that this policy be extended to other employees eligible for town of Danby provided health insurance, who choose instead to retain coverage by a domestic partner's insurance or are Medicare eligible and paying for supplemental insurance. The reimbursement is subject to the same limitations described in the first resolve above. I'll move that resolution. Somebody second.
I already did.
You already did?
Yeah.
You already moved it or second?
Second.
Okay. You had questions, right, Kathy?
What, do I have questions?
I thought you did.
I did, but I don't think that it was it was when we were talking about non-town employees, so I didn't,
Yeah.
can we,
Where it says those who aren't eligible for town.
right,
The question, so I think your question is, who is eligible?
right, who
Okay,
is, right,
Full-time equivalent.
oh, it has to be full-time equivalent.
Yeah, so 30 hours or more is eligible for health insurance provided by the town. So our part-timers who don't have any health insurance coverage provided by the town.
Yeah, and I'm a little concerned because of what is coming down the road federally
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
all kinds of people. So I think we should keep this on some kind of burner for consideration of, you know, if there were a way, and I don't know, Laura, whether there's any ways for people to buy into policies if they're so connected somehow, and what would the requirement, less than 30?
Right, and the question of course is, how do you buy into part of a policy? But I proposed, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that the town provide or offer to provide compensation for a part-time employee to acquire health insurance, either ours or others, for what it costs us to provide insurance, you know, on a prorated basis. And if they're a half-time person, we would give them half of what it would cost us to provide insurance, and they can get it from someplace else, or they can have ours if they come up with the other half themselves. Better than nothing. I mean, you can't give half a policy to somebody. But right now, they don't get anything.
Right.
So, you know, it's a huge benefit for those who are covered by it. It's on the order of, it's over $6,000. Laura here? Yes, Laura is here. Do you remember, Laura, offhand, what the annual cost of the family coverage is for an employee?
It is about $2,300 a month. So, and plus we have dental on top of that. So we're at something $26,000 a year.
My question was,
Employee coverage.
that's the full, that's the platinum plan or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And are there levels, are other levels of insurance available? And if we had, layers, I mean, I'm not talking about full-time people.
There are some municipalities, could you hold just one?
I think that we were, that the consortium didn't want us to pick and choose. We had to be all in with one
Yeah.
plan.
It had to be all in one plan, but I do know that there are some municipalities, Joel, that do have things like offer a bronze plan or offer, I think there are some things that can be done. And especially if we're talking about part-time employees and they're not just full-time employees. I think that there are some things to explore with the health insurance consortium, you know, based on what the town really wants to do. And what they want to offer some part-time employees. But it's definitely something we could look into.
I
But
was
as
really,
far as what they meant, Joel, I think is all of our full-time employees, there was like everybody's going to be on the platinum plan for our full-timers. But there are different scenarios. There's different things that happen with part-timers as well.
We can explore. I think it's worth mentioning because it's going to be a big deal when we do our budget, that the consortium is proposing was a 17% increase.
More than a 7%, like a 17.6%, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a whopping increase.
Whomping increase, yes, which it will amount to around $45,000 to $50,000.
and the only thing that could possibly be something that the insurance companies might like is they get more money if we have more people enrolled, but I don't know whether we can wave any carrot like that and see if there's anything that can be done for part-time people. And that full-time, that's a huge, you're talking, it's a huge amount.
It's a lot of money.
Like the nice egg raising everybody 60% over 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, things are probably gonna have to be explored a lot in the next 2.
I mean, and that's not something we have a whole lot of choice about.
Right. So, right, we don't have choice.
Yeah, we're not, we can't, we could, but it's unconscionable to say, well, we're not gonna provide health insurance anymore.
Yeah, that's unconscionable. That's not happening.
Well, let's,
And we couldn't do,
let's
do it with the union
get some
anyway.
ideas, options that we can look at.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
So anyway, we have motions and a second, and any further discussion? Okay, Mariah.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Canyon,
Yes.
thank you.
We have 3 properties that have been evaluated for participation in the CDBG housing rehab program. They have gotten to this point where they have all their ducks in a row and are ready for board approval. One is at 69 Station Road, another one at 804 West King, and the third at 224 Jersey Hill. And I move that we authorize their inclusion.
I'll second
Second
that.
that.
I beat you to it this time.
I'll third it.
You third it. We'll 5 it, or 4 it at least.
Any discussion?
I think this is an excellent thing, and I think once again, to try and, if there's anything that we can do as a town to try and encourage the
Yeah.
continuation of something like this. I know the state can't do it on their own, so, but it really, and helping people to know in the town what it's like, it must be a real pleasure for you, Greg, to have been part of this.
Yeah, and like last Wednesday, when I had my little planner session, there was a couple there that didn't know about the program and they are gonna look into it. And so it's nice, I have these conversations every week and I let people know about it.
Yeah.
And then we'll be applying again to help out another 14 to 15 property owners, so.
Yeah,
it is a great program.
it's a wonderful thing.
It's mind-bogglingly expensive to make these repairs. I get sticker shock whenever I read the list.
Yep. Now, look.
Well, the lead abatement, I think that's the,
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at thinking of replace the roof, you know, and
Yep.
roofs, windows, electrical work, everything. It's just just a lot of money. That's when somebody's always ever done everything himself. And that's why.
Well, it also goes to help us with some of the negative comments we've heard about Danby, how it looks. This is the kind of
Yeah.
thing that helps people.
Well, I mean, we have people who, usual situations, people who in their later years, you know, post-retirement, don't have the money to maintain their houses and they deteriorate.
Right, but it's not just the people post-retirement.
Mhm.
Thankfully, it's open to all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where the greatest need manifests typically. Anyway, so motion made and seconded, right?
Yep, we can vote.
And we can vote.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon,
Yes.
excellent.
The next item I put on because we wasn't, well, and I'm not sure what to do with it, but so what's for us to discuss. When we had our executive session last time, we came to informal agreement, there was no vote, that we would like to generate lists of properties that are either run down and need repair or that are derelict and need to be, well, we're talking about property maintenance as a, you know, junk as opposed to the buildings. So both of those, one list for each. It was, and that we would review the list regularly as a board, you know, at our meetings and sort of monitor and direct the enforcement process. It's not clear how those lists were supposed to be generated, though.
Well, Steve had the list that has been, and we were supposed to be able to see that and start from, get that and go from there. And we solicited, I heard you solicited at the planning board meeting. We could put in, I don't know whether we want to put an announcement directly on the website or some little thing in the newsletter that says something. We are interested. We're working on trying to do something. If you have comments to share, I mean, there's probably hundreds by the time we get done looking at some things. Some things are way worse, but I don't know how to solicit them either.
I mean, you probably start with complaints.
Yeah, complaints, yeah.
It's a good benchmark.
So
we don't get the complaints. We need to get the information about the complaints that have been received by the town. That's where we start the list. And I assume Steve has that, so we need to get it from him.
He probably does. Listen.
Yeah, so we'll start with him
Right there, complaints, yeah.
and then bring it up again after we get that list.
Okay, so what we want then is a list of candidate properties from Steve.
Right,
Two lists, one for buildings, another one for grounds,
Right.
basically. And we'll review them this time.
Well, I think that it's possible that other people employed in the town or who are out in the may have those. So I think we should ask townwide. I mean, Greg probably hears things from people. Steve might, Jack might, just to let
Yeah, well,
people
we
know.
all drive around to them, probably can
Right.
pick two, you know, ones that we
Right,
find to store points.
yeah, and then it may be that we have multiples at the same place and then we can prepare that.
Popular demand, you prioritize,
Yeah,
but we're charging Steve with compiling such a list. Now, the difficulty is, maybe nice to go over the list with Steve at our meetings, except that he's typically not here because our meetings are on Monday and that overlaps with his his duties as a firefighter. Is
Not if it's done at the beginning of the meeting. He's been here before at the beginning of meetings. We can do it that way.
that what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay. So we will do it that way.
Are we thinking of saying we want to do it in the next meeting, or are we saying? Yeah.
Right? Or you want to?
We
I'm
can
sorry.
say that that would be our preference, but we need to see what time frame and what other information. So preferably by next meeting.
I mean, sure, he could put a list together like tomorrow
I think so.
of what he does now. I mean, it can be
Then it's
augmented.
next meeting, yes.
Okay.
So
So I
you're
mean,
gonna
it may-
invite the code officer to the next meeting?
The only trouble with this is,
yeah,
are we publicizing at a meeting the houses that we're listing without even moving forward with any kind of discussion with the people?
that's why I'm asking is how are we going to, how are we
What do
going to
we do with-
use these lists that we're generating and how are we going to monitor and direct?
Right.
If that's what we're going to do. And my sense was that that's what we wanted to do, was to provide that kind of direct, interfacing with the code enforcement.
I think it may feel awkward, but I mean, it's no secret, the houses that are abandoned, and, with doors left open. Windows broken. I mean, those are, everybody, everybody knows which ones those are. And, maybe the property maintenance stuff is a little more touchy, and maybe could be handled a little differently, but I think those properties that need to be, the houses need to come down, or repaired. That to me, we should probably talk about in an open meeting.
I don't see any reason not to talk about the other as well. It's not like you don't know where the junk is, that people are in violation of the
There's a
junk.
couple, there's a couple that have been mentioned a lot and have already been mentioned in public meetings. But to me, that's a little, if people look, hey, you're going to be talked about, clean up your act. But I mean,
Might give them a little incentive to clean up their act, right?
I don't know.
It'd be in the minutes of the town board meeting if you know,
Yeah.
So I had another thought, which that Julia's helping out with the enforcement and I haven't asked her, but it's conceivable she might be able to come to our meetings and brief us on where, what the status of the enforcement process is, because that she's helping out with that part of it.
If she's clear, it should be clear that she's not doing Steve's job. She's representing,
Yeah.
report, making a report. that
Report
he-
on how it's going.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't,
It's still his responsibility to
right,
pick and choose and push.
yeah, sounds good to me.
Mhm.
And saying it now is saying it again, it's gonna be out there, people. We're gonna be talking about these things that everybody's been talking to us about.
Mm-hmm. So I will ask Julie whether she'd want to do that, because that would make it easier for Steve, but it would also be good for Steve to be here, but
It would be good if he could
can
do it,
make it.
and Julia could.
Hmm.
She could be here to write down the things that he says that they're doing or whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, sounds
you can
good.
always listen to reporting, but that's not the same as being.
Right, it's not.
Afterwards.
Not the same. Sounds good to me.
Okay. No, I don't think we need to vote on anything. I move that we accept the report from the Conservation Advisory Council and send it, ask our lovely town clerk to send it on to the DEC on our behalf.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, right.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes,
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
We move the first September board meeting from Labor Day to September 8th, and the second meeting to the 22nd, so they're not just a week apart.
Second.
Pat,
Pat seconded,
yep,
discussion? Nope. Okay, right,
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Canyon.
yes,
Excellent.
Before we close. Don't close.
what,
Oh, we're gonna discuss the agenda. Okay, I just had something else I forgot.
right, next item is Zach's proposal. Or Zach's information and
Oh, right,
suggestion.
okay.
I'd like to preface this talking about the engineer with, before we go any further with this, can we please do, I've talked to the bulk of the people around it. There is a person that lives next door in the White House that I've never managed to reach.
The other side of the creek.
No, the other side of the creek, I've talked to her in depth. The person in the White House with plastic on the windows.
Oh, yeah, up by the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not talked to that person. It would be nice to be able to send out a mailer to people within whatever deemed appropriate range. I do not want to upset anyone. I've had pretty much universal support, not only by neighbors, but by a large number of town members. But I don't, you've seen tonight, I'm not here trying to do this to upset people. And frankly, I'm trying to work on it in a way that mitigates sound. Actually, to also preface the engineer, I talked to UDIG today because one way to cut down on noise was to actually sink everything inside the barn down into the ground. And I'm just trying to see where the
It's
water.
like have creating a self berm.
Yes, absolutely. Self-firm, and 3 of the 4 sides of the structure will obviously be, not obvious, but will be enclosed with plywood on the inside and have some sort of siding on the outside. And that should significantly cut down on anything projecting towards the creek.
Yeah, it was lined with acoustic tiles.
I actually thought if there was a way to do a rain screen on the outside and put, like, if it's possible to get fine used rock wool or something.
Sound absorbing blanket.
Yeah, some sort of sound absorbing blanket, something to help mitigate any noise. And, burying it in the ground does a pretty good job on its own.
Massive relatively.
So yeah, I find out, I think Thursday is the first day that I can go over there and do that after talking to UDIG. Thankfully, I have a piece of equipment close by, and I've talked to Keith, and everything seems above board on that, I believe. As far as talking to an engineer, I talked to, I believe his name's Javier Rosa. He was recommended by Jim Hallhand. He works at Tatum, and we had a very nice conversation this morning. He said it should be somewhere between 16 and 1800 for the drawings and stamp to
Which is already maybe twice as much as we were hoping to spend on both projects.
right. It's on par with the other engineer that I talked to before. You always hope that you're gonna get someone to be able to cut their price, but everyone's worth what they're worth. And it seems very fair for having an engineer come in, and it's a public structure. I mean, it needs to be done to the utmost, and utmost standards. And it's, salvaging that structure. There's so much good there. It's just making the stance stable. And
Yeah, I mean, if you spend enough on engineering, you build them from scratch, but that's fine.
Not likely.
yeah, I don't think it's, because we were talking about, instead, he said the span is too long to do without.
Just looking at it.
Well, I talked to another, actually talked to a beam company, let me start this over, I'm really sorry. An engineer at a company that makes wooden beams, and they said that, yeah, we can probably spec one out. And they talked to him for a little bit, and talking to Tatum, they said, you're gonna have to do steel, and frankly, getting a crane out to put a steel beam is not within the budget
No.
or something I want to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, it'd be probably collar ties, a third of the way up.
I thought structural ridge would probably fix the.
It, it's really just anything that can keep the structure open.
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know? So I think that is probably the most inexpensive way. I'm just curious also, like, after talking to neighbors, if it seems like no one objects, it would be lovely to also, I don't even know how this works since we're doing this on, the smallest budget we possibly can,
Mhm.
to try and start fundraising at some point. I don't know how that is treated with, private people donating labor and also potentially getting materials and other things donated. I guess that'd be a good thing to talk to a lawyer
That's a good
about.
question.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways, Lord probably knows, but you can't like the town can't advertise and say,
Yeah.
from what I understand, say, hey, don't donate here,
Oh, no,
yeah.
no, I was,
I'll leave that on that side of things.
Can't we? What makes you think that we can't?
Well, when we were building the skate park over in Enfield, they wanted to kind of do all this fundraising for it, and the town looked into like, could they like, basically what it came down to, town board members couldn't like post on their Facebook page, like, hey, donate here for this cool skate park we're building. It was like trying to separate out the town from this. The fundraising could happen, and the town could even create like a separate line in their budget where people could donate into funds for that. I mean, people do that for like park benches and things like that, but
People can,
in
if
terms
people
of
can and
adver-
give, money to.
in terms of encouraging,
Right.
there was something where like town members shouldn't encourage people to donate for this.
Maybe some option. It's like, if you give to the thing that town board member was asking, would they expect something in return, something like that?
Just to,
Well, I mean, there is a prohibition of accepting gifts personally.
sure.
But we're not.
No, but even secondhand has the same connotation, so it's not appropriate. But there should be other ways to be doing fundraising without having to make it official through the town.
So if I happen to like win the election in the fall, is this gonna become problematic?
Building it or
Yeah.
asking,
Not if you're volunteering.
Yeah, it's full volunteering.
It becomes problematic trying to pay.
Oh, why would I want to get paid to do this?
right,
That's the whole spirit of this. I mean, it's getting the money together once it starts going.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this before and I'm gonna mispronounce the name again, so let me ask Greg.
anyway.
Honeyway.
Oh, honey, yeah.
Yeah, Honeyway is like a prime example
Mhm.
of how they've been doing this for, I'm gonna be wrong, we'll say about 10 years, building it on their own. And it's been solely through donation. And they actually have been sponsored by Satcrete, I
Uh-huh.
believe, for the past year or two. So they'll just drop pallets of Satcrete off.
Hmm.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. Once this starts going and getting out there,
We need the concrete mixer.
thankfully, I have one and hopefully get a larger one at some point. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping this just becomes like a self-sustaining project because that's what skateboarding is funded on, is doing it yourself. And yeah,
so back to the letter.
yes,
Do you have would you like to try and pen a little hello letter?
You and I could work.
Okay, cool.
If you want to do it, you want to be formal outreach by the town to the neighbors?
Yeah.
As opposed to.
It is a town-owned property.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not inappropriate for us to do that.
Okay. I mean, we could like
Not
not,
probably 10 properties.
Within what? I'm thinking about 500 feet or.
maybe 1,000.
Okay, so it's more than that.
Yeah, it's not a lot more than that though.
Sure, so you're looking for authorization to just send out a letter to some people to say that the town is gonna work on rehabilitating this old building to turn into a skate park.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I mean, ideally, we've never like really got into this before, but it would be nice to have it be more than just a skate park.
Well, yes, it's got that potential. There's a lot more land
escape
space
than
there than,
just-
than
yeah.
just that.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be it could be playground equipment or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
picnic area.
Yeah,
may-
nice. Decent.
maybe a
Yeah.
dog park. I don't know if that's, you know, I know a lot of
Mhm.
people said dog park.
Yep,
Some people like them.
Yeah.
a lot of things. I mean, the idea is this,
It's just
A
the
town-
anchor tenant.
Yeah, it's a thing
a
that
little
gets people to
focal,
know
a
it
focal
exists.
fun place or a focal,
Park.
no,
Mhm.
you know, just a place to go and enjoy being around each other in the
Yeah.
town and place for children to develop, work on their muscles instead of the screen.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's less than a ball field. You don't have to have a group, but you will probably get a group as you keep doing it.
Mhm.
And who knows, because it's along Buttermilk Creek, who knows, maybe neighbors leading up to Jennings Pond will one day grant a trail easement.
That's
back
right.
Yes.
Connecting this park up to Jennings Pond.
That's right.
Yeah,
That'd be just.
It would be lovely.
Yes, yes.
And then
Cool.
that would be way cool. Thought it was a great idea 10 years ago. I still think it's a good idea.
well, maybe we could do what, one of the thoughts I had was to prepare samples of, I thought it just right behind here, just take some of the bushes and prepare what a sample pathway looks like and just have a sign, you know, this is
Sample
what a pathway.
pathway. Sample trail section.
Yeah, sample trails, yeah. So that, yeah,
And just kind of looking into the future, say if this, you know, comes into fruition and everyone's.
you mean when?
Yeah, I'm trying to be realistic.
Mhm.
Would it be possible, and this might be quite an ask, to put in the newspaper, trying to get people involved in the community, not even for labor donation, but like what people would be interested in having
yeah.
there?
Mhm.
Because
You mean beyond the skate park?
the actual skate park,
Oh, and what do you want in the skate park?
yes,
Yes.
because it is a limited size to start.
Yeah, and you have limited options for what kind of facility it's going to be.
You could-
I mean,
there could be
like-
Advertising like maybe do little community meetings
Little
too.
design charrettes.
It could be advertising, even just starting with it could be a community meetings, also survey, like a really simple one-page survey that it's just an online survey, I think to.
With visuals, so people know what you're talking about, yeah.
Maybe even having a meeting out there, I mean, inviting people out to the.
Oh, yeah.
That would be
I
good.
think that's always great, you sit there, we have a little presentation, we talk about ideas,
Yeah.
you can think of a lot of different ways, we're coming to a great time of the year to do something like that, I think in the fall, to kind of do something.
Mhm. That would follow upon, or could it be combined with the letter to the neighbors?
Yes. There could be some strategy and.
Yeah,
Keeping them
I'm
together.
raising a strategic issue.
Yeah. Open to ideas.
You might not want to, in the first communication, be looking past the what it,
Yeah. No, this is just trying to set up things as it is.
yeah.
Work on the little letter and I'll help deliver them.
What was that?
Hmm?
I didn't hear what you
I
said.
said, oh, amazing. I said, work on the letter and I'll help deliver.
Oh, I mean, instead of
And
mailing it to them? Instead of mailing it to them,
We probably, I guess we should mail it, but I don't know what's wrong with delivering them,
as long as I put it in their mailboxes.
right?
Mhm.
But you can decide on that. But anyway, if you guys work on it,
Probably better to mail them, get it official.
For sure.
So, there's two issues here. One is authorizing that mailing, and the other one is do we hire the engineer to do the
I
draw,
heard-
the engineering of the
yeah.
of the building to make it serve for the intended purpose.
What we have to do if we do that, if we're gonna do it tonight, then we have to say in the event that the letters meet with, or Zach had said, do the letters first.
I would hold off. I would let the conversation open up with the neighbors.
Yeah, right.
Let's
that
not,
first.
Right, right.
because there's no point in talking to the engineer until it's
Until we get
actually.
a green light from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to waste his time, and he was so kind. I mean, both people I've talked to about this,
Mhm.
it's just so hard finding someone willing to take on a.
There's a great bunch of people too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're wonderful.
I'd say we should do the letter. I mean, however we have to
Okay.
say it, otherwise, do we need to do that as a resolution or what, or just say it?
Well, it depends. I mean, we can do it. Or if Greg wants to sponsor it as the planner, he could just do it within the context of his budget.
Sure. It's fine.
Okay,
Do it that way?
yep,
Okay.
It's just a letter, it's just a notice saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and then people, if we can get knocked out,
See what the two of you can come up with.
Yeah.
then hopefully people show up in support of it. I mean, like actually to a meeting.
All right,
How many people would it take to say, I don't want it?
That's not my.
Doesn't have. But looking for unanimity of support, pretty high bar.
it hasn't been. It hasn't been.
unanimity of support in the small area. There was not that many people we're sending out the letters to. That's a small area, and he's already talked to everybody but once.
Right.
So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, we're talking,
It's the nice thing to do.
yeah,
Right.
I do agree. At all points. Okay.
I think that it would be good to somewhere, have a conversation with somebody about, the safety of that driveway going into, because one of the only sort of concerns I heard from somebody who lives on that road, that they worried that it might be a dangerous bend, and
And on the
that
curve.
entrance is right there. So, I mean, just thinking about what kind of signage could be there, I think that should maybe be thought about before having some kind of a meeting.
Convex mirror.
What's that?
And maybe some pruning of the.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a bunch of, I drive by it and then we mark, there's a bunch of vegetation at the roadside and, improve the sight line if you just cut a couple of things down.
Yeah, it did come up. I remember a person did mention it.
Items for next time.
What?
Items for
Items for
next
next
time.
time.
Oh. I just want, I forgot, I should have said it earlier. I got two of it today because of two different accounts, but it's appropriate to mention, and I should have, it's just a letter that came from Tompkins Insurance Company. And they're talking about the FEMA issue and the floodplains. And they do, in this thing, they have three, for wherever you live, CD, Ithaca, and Tompkins County, and FEMA, all the addresses. So I thought if we could post that, this is how you find out if you're impacted. And so people are afraid of, after we're just hearing about Texas and all, people might want to know how to find out about their houses. Or did we already send out something to tell people if they're currently in it?
Yeah,
It wasn't this year, but it was, I think,
2 years ago. wasn't it?
Yeah.
When it
So,
changed, yeah.
I mean, it just lists it has the address for if they're in the city, it's flood risk information.
Mhm.
For Tompkins County, it's government resources flood information, period. And then the FEMA.gov portal. But anyway, I got it, and I know I'm not in any risk, but if I were not aware or not thinking and then paid attention to the news, I might be a little more worried about things like that now because of the
Mhm.
climate
Yeah.
and the massive rains that sometimes people are getting. Anyway, if we want to, we can have those.
There was a
addresses.
Facebook post today that had pictures of the flood of 35. I remember hearing about that. 1935, there was a huge flood event here
In Danby?
in Tompkins County. Showed the washout on Enfield Creek and, much of the city was underwater in that event. And that was before the flood control channel
Right.
was constructed, and part of the impetus for doing it.
Well, after the flood controls in 2015, washed out the bottom of the railroad track.
Yeah, that's right.
And boulders were
That's-
rolling down
The Danby flood.
96B, yeah.
Yeah, Danby Newfield.
Well, it was up here. Boulders were, Scott was trying to drive somewhere and boulders were rolling down 96B.
Mhm.
So,
You couldn't get anywhere from West Danby, that's the,
yeah,
every road was blocked.
yep. Anyway,
Yeah,
it's nothing more
that's
than,
not the next item for the agenda though. That's not an item for the agenda though.
no, no, that's why I just was saying it before we got to that.
Mhm. So we'll have the usual things and that, you know, this time half the items showed up in the last 2 or 3 days. It seems to go that way.
Would you want to discuss South Hill Cider?
Oh, right,
That should be on the agenda.
good point.
Yes.
Because in that time, I can prepare a memo about certain options, you know, what. I spoke to Joel about this, you know, determining, okay, there's a nuisance, there's been neighbors complaining about this. Is this deemed a private nuisance or a public nuisance? And, you know, does the town want to invest in trying to correct it? And there's different paths maybe to take.
Yeah, and
There's some
we
middle
talked
ground.
about this in the regulatory review committee. And then the conversation, I guess, between you and me, but
Yeah, it would be very helpful if you can bring that specific
Yeah.
information to the board at the
we
next
have,
meeting.
yeah, I think we have proposals, I think.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you want to just talk about them in the open about since neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so on the next, one of the agenda items will be the South Hill Cider.
Yes.
And whatever information you provide will be very, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Or would like Steve to join them.
You definitely could.
It just feels like. Might as well be.
He was on,
I'm sorry, who's talking?
What we're talking about Steve Sealing behind his back
it's
here.
Mark, she asked who, it was
Oh,
Mark.
shame on you.
And then I saw Leslie's hand up.
I wanted to, and I wanted to at some point, and probably should be done sooner than later, talk about the process, where the town, I assume the town board would ask the CAC for input on
Right,
certain things. Potential development, I mean, that was one of the reasons for having the CAC was to advise the town board and the planning board on certain development or proposals. And I'd like to beef up how we end up calling that in.
That would be good for the next agenda too.
yeah.
So how you want to characterize that? Say it again.
We have
You don't
that
like what I
list.
said?
Asking the CAC for input on
just-
development and proposals.
Yeah,
I just want to distill it down to a one-liner for the agenda, that's all.
When we ask the CAC for advice.
Okay,
yeah. I mean, that was one of the purposes for having a CAC, and I think we need to start
right, right,
using them.
and we adopted fairly recently guidelines for when the CAC should
Right.
be involved.
Right.
Yeah, can I comment on that? Because I know that since that resolution was passed last year to have them involved, so like there's a case coming to the planning board next week. Can you hear me all right? Sitting
Yes.
there?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So I would imagine this development proposal will include the CAC. I mean, it should include their involvement. So no, Leslie, I had that already in my
Okay,
mind as
okay.
when I go to the planning board that I'll be asking that they include the CAC at some point, whether it's between the July and August meeting or how to engage them, but absolutely, that's gonna be part of my memo to the planning board. The CAC
Okay.
now directed by the town board to be involved in these development
Great.
proposals.
Okay, cool.
Do you still want it on the agenda, or do you think you're good?
Put it on the agenda. It's helpful because it's another way of letting the town know things that we work on and talk
I think
about.
it'd be good if we look over that list again, and even if it's, you know, even if there were nothing going on right now, but I don't think we have it institutionalized in our brains that this is something that we need to use.
Yeah, and then I remember raising this issue at the time we adopted, was that how do we assure that it gets invoked when it's supposed to?
Right, right. Well, it sounds like Greg's on top of a lot of it, but
Yeah,
we
but
should
the
be
thing-
on top of
that
it
was-
too.
That's where we came down on it, was, it's gonna be
Yeah.
up to Greg to make sure that it happens.
Yeah.
Or John Szymanski while he's away.
Really, I know.
John has to know about it.
He'll be very helpful. He'll
Can
give us
anybody
another
see?
angle to look at.
Okay,
My water.
are we good? So with that, we have covered the agenda and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Listen, 2 hours.
Oh, you want to hear from my recording from the other night?
Well, that would be.
Oh, yeah.
It is, but looks like Leslie might want to hear it, but.
What do you want to hear?